Okay, so I wanted to make a deck tech real quick on my current Yisan list before I change it. I will be making some changes soon that will maybe change the way I play it. But this is the way I've had it for a good while, and this is what I've been used to, and I just really enjoy these changes. I will say this current deck is at almost 400 in Card Kingdom, almost 300 on TCG Player. I have invested this much into the deck, and some of it is also just the fluctuating prices of different cards. Right, so let's get right into it. Yisan basically says for 3 mana, you tap it, put a counter on him, a verse counter. It's a very special counter. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to the number of counters on Yisan, and it enters the battlefield. So that's the most important and appealing part of this commander. You tutor for a creature, and it cannot be countered because you did not cast it from your hand and it was not cast. It just enters the battlefield. So the way the verse counters work is the first time you activate it, you get 1 verse counter. So you get a creature that costs 1 mana, 1 converted mana cost. You activate them a second time, you get something that costs 2, and etc. So there are budget lists. I won't be going over that. But basically, the way I used to do it with my more bare bones list, it was like maybe $150 or something. Because Craterhoof was like $60 back then. But yeah, you can make it very bare bones and just full combo. So what you want to do is just rush to Karametra's Acolyte, which taps for Devotion. So your first, this is going to be ignoring RNG, what cards you draw. If you have 3 mana, which is enough to play Yisan and activate him, your first verse you will want an untapper, which for this example it'll be Wirewood Symbiote. Turn 2, Priestess Titania. You might not have elves on the field, but for now she taps for 1. Verse 3, it's going to be Elvish Archdruid, and now both Elvish Archdruid and Priestess Titania tap for 2. So these 2 tap for 4 total. Verse 4, you go for Karametra's Acolyte. She taps for Devotion. So at this point, you would be tapping for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Karametra's Acolyte alone taps for 7. So you might be able to win on turn 5. So turn 5, you go for Seedborn Muse. There we go. You would go for Seedborn Muse, just basic. In case you cannot combo off, you will still be able to reset your counters maybe during your opponent's turns, because you'll untap all permanents you control, including lands. So you go for Seedborn Muse. You won't be using Seedborn Muse, obviously, but you just want to get past that. So you use your 3 lands to activate Yisan for verse 5, and then you still have 7 mana from Karametra's Acolyte and 4 mana from Elvish Archdruid and Priestess Titania. So what you can do is for verse 6, you can tap Priestess Titania and Elvish Archdruid for the 4 mana, activate Wirewood Symbiote to return one of these 2 to your hands, and untap Yisan. So you use 3 of the 4 mana, so you're left with 1 mana plus the 7, so it's 8 total. You haven't tapped this yet, so you can just save that for later. So you have 1 mana floating. You can search for a value card, a very good value card I would say, Woodland Bellower. When it enters, you search for a non-legendary creature that costs 3 or less and put it onto the battlefield. And ideally, you would want to get another untapper, and you would get something like Seeker of Skybreak, or more importantly Scribe Ranger. Because Scribe Ranger does not have Summoning Sickness, since it's an activated ability, not a tap ability. So you return a force to your hand, untap Yisan again. You can maybe now untap, or rather you can now tap your Karametra's Acolyte to tap for 7 or 8 or 9 mana at this point. And for verse 7, you want to get Regal Force and just hope to draw another untapper, or a way to untap Yisan. There should be a way, because at this point it is turn 5. There's a chance you found a way to untap Yisan, as well as one of your lands is Wirewood Lodge, which can untap an elf, which should make things more helpful. So yeah, for verse 7, you just go for Regal Force and draw cards, and hope to find a way to untap Yisan. If you cannot, you will then have to wait, for a way to protect yourself until you can get verse 8 with Craterhoof Behemoth and win the game. Now, one thing worth considering is another win condition along the way is Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. If you have 9 plus 2 green mana, you can tap it and each player's life total becomes the number of creatures they control. So if somehow they don't have creatures, they're a combo deck, they might just lose the game, or they might go to like 1 or 2 health. Meanwhile, you have 7 or 8, so it's a huge difference there. which hopefully no one has enough burn to just end the game. But yeah, that's the basic bare bones combo. So yeah, you just rush Karametra's Acolyte regardless of what your opponents do. And that's why the deck can be budget, because you can win with a very linear tutoring form of doing things. Okay, now I want to go over what my deck has and how it's different. So for combo pieces, we have the usual Ashaya. Ashaya combos with one of the untappers, more importantly, Quirion Ranger, specifically Quirion Ranger. Because Quirion Ranger says, return 4s you control to its owner's hand, untap target creature, activate only once each turn. Now the once each turn resets every time you return her to your hand and replay her. So Ashaya says, non-token creatures you control are forest lands. So Quirion Ranger can return herself to your hand, untap either a mana producer or Yisan, and then you replay Quirion Ranger, and you can just keep doing that over and over and get get infinite mana. Now, that's Rings of Brighthearth. Whenever you activate an ability, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 2. Copy the ability you pay 2, and choose new target for the copy. So this is for an extra Yisan trigger, an extra untap, whatever it is. Staff of Domination is a mana sink. You can pretty much draw your whole deck, tap all creatures, untap all creatures. Also, the 3 for untapping is pretty useful if you have a way to make more than 3 mana. So if something like Karametra's Acolyte taps for 4, you can tap Karametra's Acolyte for 4, or no, for 5. Yeah, because you need 3 mana to untap Karametra's Acolyte, and then 1 mana to untap Staff of Domination. So if you can somehow make 5 mana, you can get infinite mana, because it only costs 4 to untap both Staff of Domination and Karametra's Acolyte. Temur Sabertooth, very good. You can reset, with Temur Sabertooth, you can reset the untappers. So the ones that say once per turn, you send them back to your hand, replay them, and you can do it again. Vitalize, untap all creatures you control, very simple. So we have a bunch for Ramp, Adventurous Impulse, Arbor Elf. Carpet of Flowers is a newer one. I did bite the bullet on this one. Cultivate, Edge of Autumn, Godama's Reach, Leyline of Abundance, Lotus Petal, Skyshroud Claim, Sylvan's Scrying, 3 visits, Voyaging Satyr. Voyaging Satyr combos with Wild Growth, which Wild Growth says whenever you enchant a land, it produces an extra forest. So for example, one of your forests would tap for 2 instead of 1. And so with Voyaging Satyr, you can untap that specific forest and get another 2 mana. Woodland Reclamation, insane card for 4 mana. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Just crazy. Especially since we have so much control. So, Bane of Progress for 6 mana. When Bane of Progress enters the battlefield, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Put a 1/1 counter on Bane of Progress for each permanent destroyed this way. Speaking too fast there. Beast Within, destroy target permanent. They created 3/3. Caustic Caterpillar, no Summoning Sickness. So 3 mana to destroy any artifact or enchantment. Duplicate, 6 mana. Imprint, when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-token creature, and then it copies the power and toughness. Crow's Grip, destroy target artifact or enchantment. A split second is very important because it prevents it from being countered. Natural State, destroy artifact or enchantment with 3 or less. Nature's Claim, destroy artifact or enchantment. Ram Through. This is better than Rabbit Bite because this is instant speed, and instead of fighting each other, they deal damage to each other. So your creature deals damage to the other one, but they don't trade damage. Reclamation Sage, classic, destroy artifact or enchantment. Return to Nature, again, artifact or enchantment. Spatial Contortion. This I teched in specifically for Opposition Agent, which counters our deck hard. Opposition Agent says whenever an opponent would search their library, you search for them, and they cannot search their library basically. And this is able to kill it. Just that simple. I believe Opposition Agent is a 3/2, so this should get the job done. Tormod's Crypt. For those graveyard decks, you can just slap this down turn 1 and sort of threaten them with it the whole game. You just, at instant speed, sacrifice it and exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Really good. Now, surprisingly, we have 2 counter spells in mono green. One of them is sort of a weird counter spell. Counter target activated ability and draw a card. Very specific, but it does come in handy for 2 mana. Another 2 mana. You do need a wastes or a colorless mana specifically, not just any mana, a colorless mana. So you can exile target creature with power 1 or less, power or toughness 1 or less, counter target sorcery spell. This is where it comes in handy the most. Counter target sorcery spell. The bottom doesn't even matter about the 1/1. It's just a very good counter spell for colorless. These are on the way out. Emerald Medallion. Since our average... Basically, the mantra of this deck is if it costs more than 3 mana, you're not meant to play it from your hand. Because Yisan is supposed to be tutoring for creatures, so if you have like a 7 mana creature, a 5 mana creature in hand, you're not supposed to play it. Yisan was supposed to get that out onto the field. Fierce Empath, again, for the same reason. When it enters, you search for something costs 6 or greater, put it into your hand and shuffle. You're not going to be able to play that because it's revealed and it's going to be countered. If it enters with Yisan, it cannot be countered. If you play it from hand, it can be countered. Wood Elves, when it enters, search your library for a forest card, put it into the battlefield, untapped, then shuffle. It's just not that great. Like, in terms of options for 3 mana, there can be so much better. So, yeah. For mana, we have Boreal Druid, Elvish Archdruid, Elvish Mystic, Find Horde Elves, Karametra Acolyte, Llanowar Elves, Priestess Titania, Sol Ring. For protection is amazing here. Autumn's Veil. It's such a great card, and so cheap as well. For 1 green, spells you control can be countered by blue or black spells this turn. Like, what other color is going to counter spells? Red. Red is going to redirect spells, but they can't counter spells. And creatures you control can't be the targets of blue or black spells this turn. This allows you to combo off if they don't respond to this. Simple as that. Blessed Respite. Target player shuffles their graveyard into the library and prevents all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So if you get hit with a board wipe, you can fix it with this card by shuffling your graveyard into your library. Also, you don't take combat damage. So this is very good in clutch situations where, you know, someone's just swinging big at you and you don't want to block because you have a bunch of useful Mandorks. Hall of Gemstone. I was able to get this for like 10 bucks. It is currently at 20 or like 30. Basically, it says during each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color. Until the end of turn, each mana producing land produces mana of the chosen color instead of the normal color. So during my turn, if I choose green, everyone else's lands tap for green. And it doesn't prevent them from interacting, since they might still have mana rocks and stuff, but it does limit how much interaction they can do. Heroic Intervention. For 2, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. Again, amazing. Sylvan Safekeeper, usually my go-to for the first activation of Yisan. You can sacrifice a land, target creature you control gain Shroud. Amazing protection. You are giving up a forest, which you might not need, because again, your deck only needs 3 mana for Yisan and to activate Yisan. So you can easily sacrifice your 5th forest, 4th forest. I've had a game where my whole playgroup makes me sacrifice like 5 forests in a turn, but I still have 3 mana on the field, and that's enough to win me the game, because that's all I need. Veil of Summer, another Veil effect. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black. It's just insane. It does cost a little more though, it's at 10 bucks compared to Autumn's Veil, but having 2 similar effects is very good. Now, for ramp, we have, I think we went over these. Yeah, we went over these. The stacks, very important. If you are not the fastest deck on the table, you want to slow everyone else down. So some of these are tutorable, such as Collector Oof. He straight up says activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. So no mana rocks, no soul ring, no treasure tokens, no artifacts. Just no artifacts. It is a 2/2 creature though. People will try to find a way to get rid of it. So either you protect it and keep the target on your head, or, you know, it is what it is. Hum of the Radix, very specific for my playgroup, but basically it says each artifact spell costs 1 more to play for each artifact they control. So if someone controls 5 mana rocks, but not a soul ring, their soul ring will now cost 5 more mana, because they control 5 other artifacts. Very good against like Urza and stuff like that. Manglehorn, again anti-artifact, but I would say this is better than Reclamation Sage by quite a bit because of its secondary effect. When Manglehorn enters the battlefield, you may destroy target land. Target artifact. Artifacts you control. Artifacts your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. They just enter tapped. It's very small stacks, but it is still stacks. Nothing hurts more than a turn 1 Root Maze. Root Maze for 1 mana. Artifacts and lands come into play tapped, including yours. So, since you only need 3 mana, you don't worry too much about this. Your opponents though, they worry about this quite a bit, and they will be groaning for a few turns. But the moment it's gone, they will realize who the real threat is and start pointing their guns elsewhere. But for the first few turns, you will be, you know, the target of whatever they have. Whatever they can muster up. Winter Orb. Almost worse than Root Maze. No player may untap more than 1 land during their untap phase. So instead of untapping all their lands, they only untap 1. It's just that mean. So this works for this deck because oftentimes you will have mana dorks, and you even have ways to untap forests with with Voyaging Satyr, for example, and Arbor Elf to just untap forests. Also Carpet of Flowers. You make forests for free. So yeah, Winter Orb just doesn't affect you. In comparison. Now, untappers are part of the combo. Very important as well. Great Oak Guardian, for 6, you tutor this more often than not. When it enters the battlefield, creatures target player controls gets +2/+2/+2 until the end of turn and untap them. Matrite Stone, very good combo piece, just great. Quest for Renewal is a second Seedborn Muse. Basically it says, whenever you tap a creature, put a quest counter on it. As long as there are 4 more quest counters on this enchantment, untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So this is pretty easy to, you know, activate. And it just, if you have enough mana dorks and Yisan, you can sort of do Seedborn Muse without Seedborn Muse, which is great. And without lands even, because it doesn't untap your lands. But if you have enough mana on the board, mana dorks, you'll be fine. Scribe Ranger and Untapper, Return of Forest, untap target creature. Quirion Ranger says the same thing. Seeker of Skybreak straight up says untap target creature. Or with Symbiote it says Return an Elf, a little more specific. Untap target creature. Castle Garen Break, an insane card. Specifically for our deck. It enters tapped unless you control forests. Super easy check land. You can add 1, or you can pay 4 to add 6 green, and you can only use it to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. So for 4 mana you can activate Yisan twice. Like, that's amazing. 27 forests. I might go down to 25 soon because I will be adding more utility lands. Hickory Woodlot is on the way out. This is for the speed build. If you're doing just the full combo, the cheap the budget deck, this is amazing because it enters tapped with 2 depletion counters. Remove 1 depletion counter, it taps for 2 green. So it is ramp of sorts. Wirewood Lodge. Untap target elf for 1 green. Again, very good for combo. We have a few value cards. Port of Calling for 3 green and 1 X. Convoke is very helpful as well. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less. So it does give you options. You can pay 4 and search for something that costs 3 or 2. Put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. Again, the creature that enters cannot be countered. Only this spell can be countered. Defense of the Heart. During your upkeep, if one of your opponents controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, any 2 creature cards. Put those creatures into play. Again, those 2 creatures cannot be countered. Defense of the Heart, I believe, is a triggered ability, so unless they find a way to counter a triggered ability, this is just really good. Regal Force, not my favorite, for the same reason as I mentioned before. You don't want to draw the big creatures that you're supposed to tutor out with Yisan. So if you draw your win condition by accident, it might get countered, and that's just how it is. But yeah, when it enters, draw a card for each green creature you control. Very good. Woodland Bellower, amazing card. Just so good. It's a 6/5, pretty big creature already, but when it enters, search for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less. Just solid. Your win condition, Craterhoof Behemoth, says when it enters, it has haste by the way. Creatures you control gain Trample and XX until the end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So minimum, you'll get like +7/+7. Shaman of Forgotten Ways, I think I mentioned this win condition already. For 11 mana, you tap it, each player's life total becomes the number of creatures they control. Activate only if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater. So if you have 8/1/1/1s, you'll be fine. The sideboard is just the combo. So yeah, I'll be linking this list in the description in case you want to mess around with it, playstest it, or whatever. Let's see. Average CMC is 1.78 or 2.55 without lands. Again, under 3 mana. So you only need 3 lands to play your whole deck, pretty much. And again, if whatever is in your hand costs more than 3, it's not meant to be played from your hand. You will eventually have to though, because you can't just shuffle it back in. But yeah. This is an example hand. We don't draw a land. Let's draw, for example. Still no land. Draw. We finally get a land. This would be a messy hand. Let's just get a fresh hand. We could do Lotus Petal into Arbor Elf here, except we don't have a land. So it will be Lotus Petal and pass. Then we draw and there's the land we need. So it will be Forest, Arbor Elf, and we'll be fine. And the next turn, it would be tap Forest, tap Arbor Elf to untap Forest, tap the Forest, that's 2 total for 3 visits, and then search your library for Forest. 2 Forests are fine. This is just good. It's 1 Mana Dork and 2 untappers. Again, Fierce Empath's not the best card. I really don't like it. Very, very bad. I'm gonna replace that with something better soon. Okay, so that's the deck tech for now. I will be changing it in the future soon. I already ordered the new cards I'm getting, so yeah. By the time I play the new one, it'll be slightly different. Okay, bye.